how do daddy issues manifest in men, right? So when
Yeah.
men have daddy issues, and when you think about daddy issues, let's be honest, right? Let's be thorough.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, that could be
Mm-hmm.
a dad that abandoned you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could also be an
Mm-hmm.
overbearing dad, right? Someone
Yep.
that's in the house, but they're very overbearing on you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also this dad that makes you feel like you're never good enough,
Yep.
right? So you got that type of father, right? You also
Mm-hmm.
have the dad who didn't pay you any attention, even though he was in the house. That causes a
Uh-huh.
set of issues. And people don't really think about it. They only think about the dad that left, right? The single parent kind of
Yeah.
deal. But there's
Mm-hmm.
so many dads that are in the house that aren't really dadding, per se. Or
Yeah.
if they are, they're doing it in an unhealthy way. They're
Yeah.
doing it in an unhealthy way. So let's unpack how daddy issues tend to manifest in men. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you asked me to kind of touch on this, I had to think of like a real client that I have. And I've
Uh-huh.
been working with this young man. He's like 25. And he literally is having so much trouble, Troy, dating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And his issues are his inability to see his own worth. And I
Mm-hmm.
hate it because, and he will tell me, he'll be like, Christian, like, I know I'm a catch. Like, bruh's in the military, got a job, young, just bought his own house. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's like established and, college graduate. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, like
Mm-hmm.
he's accomplished and he knows who he is. And he'll say that I know who I am on paper, but I just don't feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do want to say, it's important to point out that daddy issues is not the end all be all of everybody's mental health stuff. Like
Yes,
we're talking
absolutely.
about daddy issues as like part of the equation.
Yeah.
So for him, he's a child of divorce. And so
Mm-hmm.
very young, probably fourth or fifth grade, he learned what relationships look like, which is that they break up and they don't last. And so his dad never came back and kind of taught him how to be in relationship with anyone. So it was like
Mm.
when it came to intimacy, like he lacked that intimacy there, like their relationship.
Yep.
And then he didn't get to see how important it was to be vulnerable as a man.
You can't express those
Um,
emotions.
can't and it's like I said, it's part of the equation, right? He's also black, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So, and I just had a conversation with another one of my black males earlier this week, and he was like, I'm a black man, I'm not allowed to be vulnerable because of course there's a whole like safety piece to that. Physically,
Yes.
can I be safe? Emotionally, can I be safe? And so what I kind of see daddy issues looking like for men is really just the lack of ability for young men to see how a man is supposed to or even allowed to express emotion. So when you're in a relationship and you're dating and you're hit with something that is triggering for you, like it
Mm-hmm.
touches your stuff, but you don't know how that looks,
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of go back to like your younger self. And so when
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of trauma work, I'm like, yo, like how old are you? What age are you presenting right now? Like when you're in an argument, and I know you probably talked about this before, when you see relationships like my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I kind of go back to like my 12-year-old rah rah self who
Uh-huh.
watched mom and daddy argue, and I said I would never let a man talk to me like that. Like that's 12-year-old Christian. Like
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah. You have to work on
Um,
her.
I got the work on her. You know what I'm saying? But like for him, he didn't like it's a trigger for him, so he reverts back and kind of shrinks into the young self that wasn't really taught to
Mm-hmm.
handle emotions, especially
Uh-huh.
because he also has like a host of mommy issues too.
Ooh, we're gonna talk about that
So
on another one.
I
Ooh.
know that's a little teaser, you know what I'm saying? But his issue really is, I think for men, the main piece is the fact that if there is no father, let's say no father, and like you touched on before, like emotionally neglectful, like you could be in the house and you're not really there, not really
Mm-hmm.
present, then who do I look to say that it's okay as a man for me to deal with my emotions? Because when I'm with my partner, whoever that's going to be, then how do I deal with that? Like it's
What do
not
you do
it's
with
not
it?
really fair because you're
Yeah.
thinking about and dealing with adult things
Uh-huh.
as a child.
Man, think about this. So here's where I want to go with this, right?
Okay.
So that's a big piece of it, right? The man not being able to emote, right? Not understanding how to
Yeah.
process emotions, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk
Mhm.
about the other way, one of the other ways that it affects men in terms of
Mhm.
becoming mama's boys. This, let me tell you something, Christian.
Oh.
The amount of women that come to me complaining about their men being mama's boys, and mama's boys just think I love my mama, but they might not realize that
Mhm.
there's some trauma there, or there's
Mhm.
some neglect there, something that's got them so attached to their mothers that
Yeah.
it's unhealthy for them in their relationship. So how does it
Yeah.
show up in terms of the mama boy piece?
Oh gosh. The mama's boys. What's really interesting? I'm gonna flip this a little bit, and I hope
Okay.
y'all can follow.
Yeah.
See. This makes sense. I think that the mama's boys, because like daddy may not be there for whatever reason and however that looks, um, if for whatever reason they are kind of forced into the role of being the man of the house, like
Hmm.
let's say dad left and
Hmm.
they're the parentified child, like that's the clinical term, like I'm supposed to
Hmm.
be the man and the adult, like in Boys in the Hood, y'all remember
Yeah.
that? Um, you're raised by the woman with daddy issues
Ah.
who for some reason is like, yo, like this man left me, don't ever treat no other person like this, and don't trust this man, don't ever be like your daddy, you look like your daddy, and you hear all of that. um it's like I'm thinking about like trauma bonding is kind of coming to mind.
Hmm. Yeah.
That
The
idea
mom
that,
and the son, right? They
yes,
okay.
very toxic relationship. So like I know that I have to be in this relationship and in this role as the son,
Hmm.
but and you're providing for me, mama, even though you're kind of abusing me emotionally because of your own daddy issues, but I love you and I know you protect me and you provide for me. Like it's a really toxic dance and a huge conflict between I know I need you and I
Hmm.
love you and I want you because I remember and I hang on to those good times, but
Okay.
then daddy left me. So it's a weird
It's
dance,
weird.
and it is.
No,
It's
but you know what?
hurtful.
But I see the comments down here, and people are relating
Mm.
to what you're saying because I know
Oh,
this
hey, y'all.
happens. There are so many people that I know, so many men that show up as mama boys in their relationships, and they think that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They'll deny it to the end, right? But they
Mm-hmm.
are mamas boys. Like they some signs of that might be they talk to their mom like all the time, right? And
Yeah.
they can't make independent decisions without their mom,
Yeah. Can't think for
right?
yourself.
You
Yeah.
can't think for yourself, so you're like overly attached to your mother. People think, oh, I'm just checking on my mom, but no,
Yeah.
you're not. A lot of times you have
Mm-hmm.
mama boy issues. Here's another way.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me what you think about this one.
Okay.
When it comes to men, how daddy issues manifest in men. Another way
Mm-hmm.
they tend to manifest in men is they tend to resent women sometimes, right? And
Mm.
so you have those men out there too who end up resenting women. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I think along with that same example,
Hmm.
um, I know I need you, mommy. I know that you protect me, provide, but I'm kind of mad at you, and so I don't
Hmm.
never want to date anybody like you. Like you remind me of my mama, and I don't want
Hmm.
nobody like that. You know what I'm saying? Or like, there's got to be a reason why daddy left. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Daddy taught me not to trust these hoes out here. You know, like it's these messages. And my friend Jessica in Vision Counseling is on here, and she taught me to really kind of pay attention in my practice. She's another licensed therapist, and she talks about scripts. It
Hmm.
is so important for us to go back and look at what our family of origin, the village that raised us, tells us
Hmm.
about these things. Like, what are the messages that we're carrying from watching certain things? So,
Wow.
if, and that's the other piece about the men who have daddy issues, and if their father left them again, they don't have to be physically gone to leave you, right? You can be
Hmm.
emotionally distant. Then the resent for women could come from you just not even watching a healthy interaction between your parents,
Yeah. I mean,
you
look at
know?
this. Here's a comment that Cassandra said. Miss Ask Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
She said they love Kitty, but they hate women. And that
Mm.
happens because a lot of these men will become overtly sexual, right? So it's a lot of
Oh
expressed
yeah.
in a sexual
Hmm.
way, but yet they don't love the woman. They don't love the
Yeah.
woman. So that sexual promiscuity can happen a lot of times, even when you have those
Hmm.
daddy issues. So that's another
Hmm.
way that it manifests in men. I think one other one I was looking at, another one was sometimes these men they tend to
Hmm.
rely heavily on peer groups. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
this bros before hoes mentality. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about how that manifests when you have that issues as a man.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely an illustration of running towards belongingness, right? So you have, you know how like um birds of a feather, basically.
Hmm.
You know, you
Yes.
got other men who have the same type of energy from their friends and they ain't getting what they need at home because daddy was gone or whatever it may
Hmm.
be. And we talk about this in my Boys in the Hood training with Tina, just how trauma just manifests and how it presents itself with these young men who are, for example, like in gangs.
Hmm.
So, you know, on the surface, it looks like, oh, you're just a troublemaker. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like you just out here looking for trouble. But really, it's I'm running towards something. I'm running towards belongingness.
Hmm.
So, what we see as bros before hoes is really just I need my brother to validate me. I need somebody who's going through my same experience to be in community with me, because maybe that is where on the surface it looks really it sounds really bad, but if I'm looking deeper, it's a community
Yeah,
and it's
that's what it
support.
is. That's all it is, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like that's really all it is. That's what we're looking for.
So check this out though. So this is the
Hmm.
final thing we'll talk about when it comes to men and daddy issues. So we're gonna get to the women.
Okay.
So I want to get to that. But here's the other piece of this story, right? A
Hmm.
lot of times it shows up as insecurities and a constant need for validation from men too. So men won't admit it, but I talk to women all the time who have men in their lives that are in that constant need for
Hmm.
validation, right? So it's
Yeah.
because they might not feel they're good enough for the women they're with, and
Yeah.
sometimes that manifests itself. So talk a little bit about that. How does that happen?
Hmm. That self-worth piece, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, like if you don't have someone who is, and I am, and I don't know if I'll get like slammed for this, but I happen to be a person who believes that a man is the only person that can teach a boy how to be a man.
Yes,
I am that, I'm that girl.
I'm with you.
And so I just think that if the man is there, not showing you how as a man
Mm-hmm.
to feel pride in yourself,
Mm.
because it looks different for women. It goes back to modeling.
Yeah.
So what is it that like I'm in a house full of boys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my husband's a man, but we have two boys and I have my husband. And my husband, I feel, is responsible for showing them how to demonstrate dealing with anger or dealing with sadness or dealing with his anxiety, whatever it looks like, because they're going to look to you for that. Because mommy, I mean, my anxiety looks like maybe going to, I don't know,
When you going
throw
shopping?
things and go shopping. Yeah, right. I don't know. And in today's age, I don't want to seem like, there's so many different fluid, languages
Mm-hmm.
about gender and all that stuff. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware of that. But I'm just saying, like, it presents different for women. It just does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, because even with men, if I'm treating a man, and this is a tip for all of you out there,
Mm-hmm.
even depression looks different for men. Like we'll see, like if your man or your brother, your daddy, or they present as pissed off, they're
Mm-hmm.
likely depressed. That's just
Yeah.
how
Always
depression looks for
angry.
men. That's what it looks like. And so that self-worth piece, like if you don't see someone walking around with like a certain amount of pride,
Mm-hmm.
yet, the right amount of vulnerability to say, hey, I am also kind of hurting here,
Mm-hmm.
then are you worth someone picking you up? Are you worth
Yeah.
going to your bros and getting that help? You know what I'm saying? Like it
Absolutely.
all goes back to what you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole thing. And we could
It's
talk
a
about
whole
that
thing. Oh,
forever
we
too.
gonna talk. So I'm